Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Did I call it or what? Again, when I say that kind of stuff, it's not to lob praise at myself. I'm not some sort of genius who's seeing a different picture than everyone else. It's exactly the opposite. I'm just basically seeing the opposite, just as all of you are. So maybe a week or so ago, we were covering a topic involving an FBI agent who was reportedly led out of the front door of the FBI headquarters, a man named Timothy Thibault, and the assumption in the reporting at the time was that he was a corrupt FBI official hell-bent on getting Trump an anti-Trump FBI agent who was being escorted out of the office because clearly somebody with a political bias has no place in law enforcement, let alone the FBI. And maybe let me rephrase that, because of course we all have political biases, but people who let their political biases interfere with their work have no place in law enforcement and certainly not the FBI. And of course in the video that I recorded back then, we covered a little snippet of the report basically giving Mr. Thibault the benefit of the doubt, and I genuinely laughed while reading the supposed defense, because of course based on even the limited information that we had at the time, I just wasn't buying it. Well, lo and behold, maybe a week later, however many days it's been, a massive bombshell allegation targeting Timothy Thibault blows the whole lid on the FBI's BS justification and public statement. As it turns out, Timothy Thibault is involved in a massive corruption conspiracy to, of course, you probably guessed it, protect the Bidens. Let me show you guys what's going on here. This right here, folks, is why you could just never take the FBI at their own word. Of course, I've got some stuff to show you guys, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so Mr. Timothy Thibault. Of course, we covered all the initial reporting at the time. The only information that we didn't cover in the previous video is Timothy Thibault's official media statement written by his lawyers. We have it right here on Twitter from, of course, none other than Catherine Herridge. Media statement on behalf of Timothy R. Thibault for immediate release. Timothy R. Thibault has retained the pro bono services of Morrison & Foerster, LLP. The following statement may be used in whole or part, plus attributed to Mr. Thibault's counsel at Morrison & Foerster, LLP. On August 26, 2022, Mr. Thibault, pronounced Thibault, voluntarily retired from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Mr. Thibault was not fired, not forced to retire, and not asked to retire. On his last day as part of his processing, Mr. Thibault turned his security badge and walked with two long-time special agents through the field office to finish processing his paperwork. He walked out of the building by himself. Claims to the contrary are false. Mr. Thibault was eligible for retirement and informed his supervisors about a month ago that he intended to retire, following more than 30 years of devoting himself to the protection of the American people and to upholding the Constitution of the United States in a non-partisan fashion. This included nearly 2 decades of leading and supervising investigations into public corruption by members of both political parties, such as investigations that led to the convictions of Congressman William Jefferson and Jesse Jackson Jr. During his tenure at the FBI, Mr. Thibault received more than a dozen awards, including the Attorney General's Award for Distinguished Service, one of the department's highest honors. There have been allegations that Mr. Thibault's social media posts potentially violated the Hatch Act, and those allegations are being investigated by the Office of Special Counsel. Mr. Thibault is cooperating with that investigation, urges the office to complete its review, and expects to be fully exonerated. There have also been allegations that Mr. Thibault took certain actions in investigations for political partisan reasons. Mr. Thibault welcomes any investigation of these false allegations, regardless of his retirement. He firmly believes that any investigation will conclude that his supervision, leadership, and decision-making were not impacted by political bias or partisanship of any kind. He is confident that all of his decisions were consistent with the FBI's highest standards of ethics and integrity. To further set the record straight, Mr. Thibault was not involved in the search at Mar-a-Lago, either in its planning or execution. Mr. Thibault did not supervise the investigation of Hunter Biden, which, as confirmed by the FBI director on August 4th, 2022, is being handled by the Baltimore field office. In particular, Mr. Thibault was not involved in any decisions related to any laptop that may be at issue in that investigation, and he did not seek to close the investigation. So that is what Mr. Thibault and his legal counsel are saying. Then, we get this bombshell report. FBI agent Timothy Thibault hid intel from whistleblower on Hunter and, quote, the big guy Joe Biden. Timothy Thibault, the FBI agent alleged to have interfered with an investigation into Hunter Biden, was assigned by the Washington field office as a point man to manage whistleblower Tony Bobulinski, the first son's former business partner before the 2020 election. But he suppressed his damning revelations, sources say. Bobulinski spent over 5 hours secretly being interviewed by the FBI on October 23, 2020, about his inside knowledge of then presidential candidate Joe Biden's involvement in his son's business deals with China. The previous day, he had revealed in a press conference that Joe Biden was, quote, the big guy due to get 10% cut of a lucrative joint venture with the Chinese energy firm CEFC, according to an email found on Hunter's abandoned laptop. Bobulinski gave the FBI contents of 3 cell phones containing encrypted messages between Hunter Biden and his business partners, along with emails and financial documents detailing the Biden family's corrupt influence peddling operation in foreign countries during Joe's vice presidency. But his evidence appears to have fallen in the same black hole at the FBI as the Hunter laptop, never to be seen again. Bobulinski's FBI interview came the week after the Post published material from the laptop, including the big guy message and an email from a Ukrainian energy company executive thanking Hunter for organizing a 2015 meeting in Washington with then VP Biden. On the day Bobulinski went to the FBI's Washington field office, 11 days before the 2020 presidential election, he was told not to walk in the front door but to drive into an underground parking garage at the back of a nondescript 8-story building in northwest DC, 1 mile from the FBI headquarters. He was met by James Dawson, then special agent and in charge of the Criminal and Cyber Division, and FBI Supervisory Special Agent Giulio Arseni. They turned him over to 2 younger agents, William Novak and Garrett Churchill, who conducted the videotaped interview and provided a receipt for Bobulinski's digital data. He told them about the work Hunter and his uncle, Jim Biden, partners James Gilliar and Rob Walker, did during Joe Biden's vice presidency in 2015 and 2016 using the Biden name to help CEFC expand into Oman, Romania, Georgia, Kazakhstan, and beyond. He told them about Hunter's lucrative personal relationship with CEFC chairman Yi Jiangmin. At the time, the company was brokering China's $9 billion acquisition of the Russian state oil giant Rosneft. Yi Jiangmin was arrested in China in 2018 after the deal fell apart. Bobulinski and his lawyers were given Thibault's cell phone number and told that he would be the, quote, point man at the FBI thereafter. That night, Bobulinski's lawyer phoned Thibault, who said that he would soon advise on next steps and whether Bobulinski should do a follow-up interview. But neither Bobulinski nor his lawyer was contacted ever again, nor was Bobulinski brought before a Delaware grand jury investigating Hunter. Timothy Thibault's legal team just recently released a message that Timothy Thibault had nothing to do with the Hunter Biden investigation or anything related to the laptop. Clearly, that is a lie. Tony Bobulinski is naming Timothy Thibault himself as being the man who essentially dropped the case and didn't even take it to a grand jury, and this was roughly 2 weeks before Election Day. Mr. Timothy Thibault, Mr. Total Nonpartisan FBI Hack, had potentially incriminating evidence involving Joe Biden, then presidential candidate, days before the presidential election, and it seems as though he was not only the point man, but he was the point man to shove the whole thing under a rug and to pretend like it never happened, like it never existed. It shows just how deep the corruption is, and I mean all the way to the media, that of course has been defending Mr. Timothy Thibault for the past week. We continue to see all the lies and all the deception, all the corruption. We continue to paint the picture of the deep state. And actually, speaking of that, we also have this bombshell. Top Justice Department lawyer was partners with Hunter Biden's attorney. You see, all of these Washington connections, the Clintons, the Obamas, the Bidens, the Cheneys, the Bushes, and of course it all makes so much sense. How they get extremely credible information involving Joe Biden, and they actively suppress the information and even go to Facebook directly to Mark Zuckerberg and tell him to censor the story, and all the meanwhile they continue to investigate and legally harass Donald Trump for the last 6 years. You're not crazy to be losing trust in the FBI, you're merely paying attention. That's what I got for you guys on this one though. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, friends, and of course I'll see you on the next one.